12th, 2021 meeting of the Camden County Board of Education, and ask if there is any consideration for open session agenda changes. Seeing none, I entertain a motion to approve the agenda. Motion by Ms. Adler to approve the August 12th, 2021 meeting agenda of the Camden County Board of Education. Second. Seconded by Dr. Banks. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. I'd like to ask everyone to recognize a moment of silence. Thank you. Public comment. Citizens who sign up to address the board will be called on in sign-up order. Each individual speaker will be allowed 3 minutes for remarks. Issues or concerns involving personal complaints related to identifiable school personnel or student matters not appropriate for this public forum. After 30 minutes of public hearing, any speakers remaining will be recognized at the end of the agenda. Sign up, we have Ryan Cooper.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Make sure my cell phone's off. Hold on 1 second. My name is Ryan Cooper. My family and I moved to this county back in 2016. Only for the school system. It's the only reason we moved over here. We moved from Elizabeth City on a recommendation of a friend. They said that the Camden County Public Schools is the best in the surrounding 6 to 8 counties, which is true. We discovered that. Thank y'all for that. So we did, and been happy with everything up until 2020, of course. We understand the 2021 school year was frustrating for everyone, parents, teachers, administrators, but especially the children. Kids lost so much last year, socializing, sports, clubs, friends, grades, etc. What else must they lose? If the masks work, then why are we 18 months later still muzzling our children? You are paying attention. Are you paying attention and developing your own opinion and hearing the facts about the mask? That's my main concern. Or are you going to continue to play a political game this all has become? Because I believe that. I believe it's now turned into more than what we should have let it turn into. But that's not your problem in a sense of not your cause. They said shut down, go remote. We did. They said welcome back, mask up. We did. What's next? We recommend them to get a vaccine, a forced COVID testing. Then what? Forced vaccine and wearing a hazmat suit? What's next? I believe this will not end at the federal or state level, but it has to end at the local level. We are all residents of this county. We must come together and push back against the long arm of government's reach. We are here for you and with you. We support you. We believe, hope, and pray that you will make the right choices continued after tonight, because you know that another lockdown is most likely coming again. COVID-19 isn't going anywhere. It's a respiratory virus. It's like the flu or the cold. It's going to have seasons where the things will get better and they'll get worse. It's how we're responding to it that's making things worse. So instead, for this school year, on all the following school years to come, let's put on our doors, put your mask on, where the sign that said put your mask on to enter, let's put a sign that says keep your hands washed, try not to touch your face, and we have hand sanitizer stations everywhere, and then put common sense underneath it, because that's where we were before COVID, because that's how we stay clean. Now, I'm much more aware of cleanliness now. Yes, that's one thing COVID did for me. My wife's a germaphobe already, but it made me more of a germaphobe now, which is a good thing. But I know kids are nasty, and that's how kids are. But that's more common sense to me. If the supply is low, please let parents know, especially my wife, Allison Cooper. She'll certainly make a trip for the supplies if needed. Please understand, I mean no disrespect, but you all are not here to dictate health upon the parents of the children you are paid to teach. Please, thank you for allowing me to speak, and God bless you. Thank you.
Greg Warren.
Good evening. You know some of you guys. Greg Warren, I'm a local physician. I'm a nephrologist, which is a kidney doctor, but I also do primary care in the area. Been involved with the COVID epidemic now since the start. I round in the hospital routinely. Unfortunately, can say I've lost several patients to this virus. It's a bad virus. I've never seen anything like it in my career. I've been practicing for 20 years now. It's sad to have to tell family members that their patients, their family members probably not going to make it. I've been wearing one of these masks now since it started every day in my office and my dialysis unit. My dialysis patients wear the mask every treatment. These are some of the sickest patients that you can take care of. They wear it by and large without complaint. Not seen any patients have anything bad happen to them from wearing a mask. Right now, my understanding is that we don't have a lot of kids who are vaccinated. Certainly under 12 are not vaccinated. And we don't have a lot of tools to fight this virus. I don't think it's unreasonable, given the fact that the virus is on the rise again, to consider mandatory masking in schools. I know that's not necessarily a popular opinion, but I think that our kids are resilient. I think they can wear masks, and I think they can help prevent the spread of this to their teachers, to each other, and to other members of their family and community. The CDC is recommending that we have mandatory masks in school. The American Academy of Pediatrics is recommending it. I would encourage you guys to look to those organizations who don't come by these recommendations lightly. And the vast majority of these people making these recommendations are not making them for political reasons. They want what I want. They want a community that is not riddled with COVID-19, where family members are not getting sick and some of them dying. So all I would ask is that you consider it. I go to work every day to try to help people get better and to keep from getting sick. That's what I come at this from. I don't have any political agenda. I wish there was another way. I hope that eventually more kids and more adults are vaccinated and this virus does go away. In the meantime, I think you guys should consider making masks mandatory. Thank you.
I can ask everyone to please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Open session to appear, Millicent Harrington.
Good evening, you guys. So bear with me because I'm a little passionate. Anything that I've written, my intent is not to offend anybody. It's just my personal, passionate, experience. So good evening. My name is Millicent Harrington, and I've been a proud resident of Camden County for 13 years. My family is here with me tonight. My husband, Daniel, born and raised here, and our greatest gifts from the Lord, Bryce and Cole. We entered the school system in 2015 when Bryce started kindergarten. One of my biggest concerns was school safety. Was he going to be safe? At the time, we were the only schools in the surrounding area that did not have a security buzzing system. So in 2016, my husband and I started LOCKS, which stands for Local Organizers Caring About Kids' Safety. LOCKS is a nonprofit supported by the Education Foundation and approved by our Board of Education. We raised money for security upgrades within our schools from 2016 to 2019 with the help of several volunteers and the support of our community. We have raised over $60,000. A portion of this money was used to install the security system in all 5 schools. Now you have to be buzzed in before entering. Since 2016, I've been very involved within the school system. I volunteered at Grandy Primary 2 to 3 days a week. For 2 years, I was a member of the school improvement team. And my most recent endeavor, I was the chairman of the referendum committee for the new high school. In the fall of 2020, my husband and I were forced to make a really difficult decision. When the decision was made to make masks mandatory and to start remote for the first 9 weeks, Daniel and I had to do what was best for our family, and we removed our children from the Camden school system. Ever since, I've been following the governor and his updates to see if and when we could put our kids back in. 2020 brought a lot of stress to families. We are still feeling the effects of that. All of us were forced to do things that didn't feel right, didn't make sense. We started to feel our rights and freedoms were being taken away, and no one could really guide us because the generations before us have never seen anything like this before. So we are tired, we are scared, and we are frustrated. And if we don't stand up for these kids, they will grow up not knowing the same freedoms that each of us grew up with, and they won't be able to think for themselves. After reviewing the recent toolkit, the North Carolina Public Health Toolkit, I decided to come here tonight to advocate for my children and to show them what it means to stand up for what you believe in. I'm also here to fight for the students, teachers, and staff in this district. I'm fighting for the Constitution and our freedoms that have been given to us by God as American citizens. Even if I have to stand alone, I will speak the truth and I will fight for all. You see, it's easy to sit behind a keyboard and voice your opinion on Facebook or share me on Instagram. It takes boldness and courage to stand in front of a board and a live stream camera, especially when the truth is unpopular and doesn't align with the narrative. To me, this is not political, it is spiritual. And I believe this is a war between good and evil. In my humble opinion, masks should not be required. I'm kindly asking you to vote against masks and give the power back to the parents. Because we live in America, we have free will. Governor Cooper did not give us our children. God did, and he trusted us as their parents to make health decisions on their behalf. I know a lot of folks are scared. I know the fear is real, and I'm empathetic to that. So let's give everyone a choice. That's the awesome thing about America. We still have choices in this country. Allow the parents to make the choice that is best for them and their children. Ever since being in the school system, Camden has always said we are teaching our kids critical thinking. So let's think outside of the box for just a minute. We never wore masks during flu season, and kids can get and spread the flu, and they can pass it to those at risk. But even so, we never mask them up. And why is that? Well, for example, the box that surgical masks come in that you can purchase at Walgreens used to say, this mask will not prevent you from getting a virus. Just recently, a segment on CNN, which by the way, I do not watch, but this was sent to me. University of Minnesota Center for Infectious Disease Research and Policy Director Michael Osterholm said cloth or paper masks don't work to stop the spread of the disease. And I'll email you this, Dr. Farrell, so you can see it because I've cited my resources. Fauci also wrote in an email and said on national news in February and March of 2020 that the typical mask you buy in the drugstore is not really effective in keeping out virus, which is small enough to pass through the material. If they were really concerned about our safety, how come our state officials didn't send everyone effective masks? They were able to send us stimulus checks. There is also little to no scientific evidence showing that kids are super spreaders or that they get severely sick from this virus. According to the CDC, most children with COVID-19 have mild symptoms or they may have no symptoms at all. Fewer children have been sick with COVID-19 compared to adults. On Monday, August the 9th, I contacted Albemarle Regional Health Services and inquired about how many kids in Camden have tested positive for COVID. I was told that from March 2020 to now, 44 kids ages 5 to 14 have tested positive for COVID. No hospitalizations and no deaths. 44 kids have tested positive in Camden in 17 months. The flu 2 years ago was worse than that. My son Cole attended a school last year where masks were not required. He sat in a classroom day after day, desks side by side, no social distancing, and not a single outbreak. On Friday, July 30th, my family and I attended an Atlanta Braves game in Georgia. 40,000 people in the arena, zero COVID restrictions. It's now been 13 days. My family isn't sick. I took Bryce to his allergy appointment today. And of course, the doctor is talking about how bad the Delta variant is and how contagious it is. And more kids are testing positive. So I asked, what symptoms are the kids showing and have there been any hospitalizations? She kindly answered, oh, just a cold and no hospitalizations. I can't allow myself to be fearful of a cold, and I don't want to project that fear onto my children. Our bodies are fearfully and wonderfully made, and in my opinion, natural immunity is best. We should be asking ourselves, why isn't the CDC looking into the harmful effects of a child wearing a mask for 7 hours a day? What are the emotional, mental side effects? How do you teach a kindergartner or a first grader how to read when they can't see their teacher's face? Some of these kids are coming from difficult homes and they need to see their teacher smile, or they may need to feel the comfort of a hug. I am begging you to think outside of the box. Start looking into different resources. Stop relying on the CDC. They contradict everything that they say. Wear mask, don't wear mask. You won't need the mask after you're vaccinated. Oh no, now people who are vaccinated have to wear masks. Masking children is pure evil, and someone has got to stand up for these kids and say no more. It is the parents' decision. This toolkit also mentioned the vaccine, promoting the vaccine in schools, recommending the vaccine to kids and families, becoming a testing school, a vaccination clinic. I even clicked on one of the links and it took me to a curriculum page for 9th through 12th grades. Just for the record, I'm not an anti-vaxxer, but I do believe in informed consent and freedom of choice, and I'm completely against brainwashing, coercion, division, indoctrination, manipulation, and fear-mongering, which is exactly what this toolkit is. And since when do we offer incentives for people to take a vaccine? I offer incentives when I fundraise, and I do that to make more money, of course. Our health and medical conditions are personal and private, and nobody has the right to violate that. The fact that people are being discriminated against or in some way punished for making a personal choice about their body or the bodies of their children is beyond comprehension to me. Even the CDC says that because of age, health conditions, or other factors, some people should not get certain vaccines or should wait before getting them. In my humble opinion, it is not the responsibility of the school to educate, promote, or recommend a vaccine to children, families, teachers, or staff members because it isn't approved by the FDA and it's surrounded by so much controversy. I think it's great to have resources available in case a parent inquires, but that's it. And why would we promote, recommend, or mandate a vaccine when there is a 99% survival rate and therapeutics? I know that that is controversial, so I will keep it short and sweet. I know people personally who have been treated out of the state and by American frontline doctors because I referred them there. Instead of promoting or recommending a controversial vaccine for a virus that barely affects children, how about we focus on educating our children on the importance of healthy living and taking care of our bodies? In regards to becoming a testing school or the possibility of testing the unvaccinated, did you know the FDA has recalled the Innova SARS-CoV-2 antigen rapid qualitative PCR test effective December the 31st? They recalled it because the test includes performance claims that did not accurately reflect the performance estimates observed during the clinical studies of the test. The performance characteristics of the test have not been adequately established, presenting a risk of false results. So basically, the test cannot distinguish between COVID or the flu. I've been told that Camden's #1 priority is school safety, keeping our kids safe. I don't know how you comply with this toolkit and still say that school student safety is your #1 priority. If you promote, recommend, or mandate this vaccine in our schools and a student or teacher has an adverse reaction or dies, who is responsible? Not Governor Cooper, because he put the ball in your court. He made it your decision. Again, I'm begging you to not comply and to give the power back to the parents. It is their decision to do what's best for their child or children. I also don't know how you comply with this toolkit and also promote critical thinking. This toolkit is strictly one-sided. I'm not here to try and change your mind regarding how you feel about COVID. We are all entitled to our own feelings, and we have to do what's best for our families, and I respect that. I just wanted to offer some truths and a different perspective that isn't mentioned in the toolkit. Let's focus on loving our neighbor, loving these kids regardless of mask and vaccination status, no discriminating or shaming. Can we just get back to the basics where educators teach reading, math, science, and history, and leave the medical decisions to parents? Camden is a small town. We all know each other. We take each other dinner when we're sick. Complying with this toolkit will divide us and it'll ruin our small town. And I am begging you to stand up for these children and say, we will not comply. If not now, when? And if not you, then who? President Ronald Reagan said, freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. We didn't pass it to our children in the bloodstream. It must be fought for, protected, and handed on for them to do the same. Thank you for allowing me to exercise my First Amendment right. I realize that this is a very fraught time, and I appreciate how challenging your position is. I hope that hearing as many perspectives as possible will help you in your decision-making process. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Consent agenda.
A motion. For consent agenda.
Motion by Mr. Heath to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Purcell. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Information updates. Welcome to new principals and assistant principals, Superintendent Farrell.
So at this time, if we could get our new school administrators to come just up here so that they can pick you up on the camera for those who are watching from home or somewhere else. Just right up there. All right, so we have Miss Lisa Byram, who is the new principal at Camden Intermediate School. So welcome to Ms. Byram. We also have Mr. Mike Reeves, who is the new principal at Camden Middle School. So welcome, Mr. Reeves. We have Miss Kirsten Schiffbauer, who is the new assistant principal at Grandy Primary School. And we have Mr. Troy Barlow, who is the new assistant principal at Camden County High School. So welcome to you all. They've all hit the ground running.
Did
Thank you.
someone
You're welcome.
inform Mr. Barlow of the requirement to not wear a suit to a football game before Miss Idlet will?
I didn't, but if you do, she will pick on you relentlessly. I've lived it.
All right, thank you and welcome. Summer school program, Angela Lasher, Chief Academic Officer.
Good evening.
Just here to provide an update on our summer learning program that concluded on August 5th. It did stop a day short. However, we did have our 30 days in, and we called it on the 6th due to inclement weather. So we had 194 students that attended. You can see the breakdown of who was invited, how many was invited at each school, how many enrolled, and then how many actually attended. GPS actually picked up 3 from that enrolled and then who came. And so GPS had 62% attend out of who was invited, CIS 28%, CMS 92%, and Currituck High School or Camden High School. I am so sorry. That is years of saying that. I apologize. Camden High School and Camden Early College, 37%. So overall, we had 54% participate from who was invited initially. So just some pictures that I put together for you. At the younger age, we had reading and math and science that had to be part of the daily program. And then cooking. They had cooking every week at GPS, and the kids absolutely loved it. So you can see pictures there of some math groups, some reading groups, science activities, and then that yummy caramel apple there on the side. And then they also did fun activities for enrichment with an escape room, some pictures there. And then they had special visitors. You can see the goat and the rabbit. And then every week, GPS did a circus theme. And so every week they earned tickets for different activities that they did throughout the week. And then they could go to a carnival where they still had to read all the directions before they could participate in any games. And so Miss Byram did a great job. And then Mr. Lynham took over for her when she moved up to CIS of posting pictures for the parents to see on a regular basis. Then we also had students that were learning the rules of the sport and playing some hockey as part of the enrichment activities. We had some STEM going on. They made marshmallow spaghetti towers, and they created them on their own. Then we had science, more science activities where they were studying Newton's laws of motion by creating their own marble roller coasters. See some of the designs there. And then they also constructed cars and used mathematical formulas to determine the velocity as they traveled down a ramp. And so just some pictures of the fun things that they got to do while they were there. Camden High School in the early college, we had classes through Apex and NCVPS with live teachers there to help. Those are all the courses that we offered and had students attending. So pretty much all subject areas, as well as health and PE and weight training. Our staff and expenses, we had 58 staff members. Salaries and bonuses came to a total of $231,398.14. And supplies and materials, we only spent around $500. So that puts us at spending about 46% of our ESSER 2 funds at this time. Then on July 21st, we had a DPI visit. We only made it to Grandy and CIS. We didn't make it any further. We thought we were headed that direction, but did not make it there. And so just some pictures from that. But they were very complimentary and even remarked that this was the first school they visited where literacy was incorporated into every single content area. So that was nice to hear. And then October 30th, we do have a report that is due, a survey and a report about the benchmark data because they had to be assessed when they came into the learning program and then at the conclusion. And so once all that data is collected, I can share that with you at another time, but that is due to the state on October 30th. Any questions? All right, thank you.
Latin Honor System, Ms. Amber Davis, Principal of Camden County High School.
Good evening. So currently at Camden County High School, we have the following honors recognition implemented for our graduating seniors. So we have honors graduates, and in order to qualify, you have to have a 3.5 weighted cumulative GPA or higher at the end of the third 9 weeks grading period. And then we also have the distinction of valedictorian and salutatorian for the graduates. So for the 2021-2022 school year, for freshmen entering high school this year and beyond, we're going to utilize a Latin honor and distinction system, which is also based on weighted GPA at the end of the third 9 weeks, rather than just have simple honor graduates. The Latin distinction honor system is the summa cum laude, magna cum laude, and cum laude that you see a lot of colleges and universities use. So summa cum laude is 3.9 to 4.0, magna cum laude is 3.7 to 3.89, and cum laude is 3.5 to 3.69. So we're still recognizing the same GPAs. It's still 3.5 and above that we're recognizing. But we also wanted to give some special recognition to those students who have a 3.9 or a 3.75 or above a 3.5. We're very lucky in that we typically have a good number of honor students, and I love that, but I also want to make sure that we're recognizing different types of achievements within those honor students. So one of the reasons is that also it kind of mirrors a little bit about what colleges are doing, how they do that, and we will continue to keep valedictorian salutatorian. I know that's a hot topic across the state about whether or not schools have valedictorian, so we're not getting rid of that. We're still going to have it. But this will be effective for freshmen entering the school the 2021-2022 school year. So we're not changing things midstream for the kids who have been here and have been told that they would be honor graduates. And this information is in our current student handbook and curriculum guide. Any questions?
Thank you.
Thanks.
Summer maintenance projects, Mr. Larry Lawrence, Chief Operations Officer.
Good evening. I'll just go to the highlights. A lot of the things we've done this summer. One of the things we did, replaced the roof on the dugouts for the girls softball team and got that painted for them. If you notice, we've been striping all the parking lots, restriping them. I've got 3 large units at the middle school, AC units that's out at this moment, waiting on parts. All the AC filters in the school system's been changed at least once this summer. Right now, we're working on ballast and lights in all the rooms. All the hoods, fire extinguishers, sprinkler systems have all been inspected for the year. I had to repair 2 of my sprinkler systems in 2 different schools. They had leaks. Almost done with the room at Grandy, the renovation of that one room. And we just finished the carpet in the guidance office today. Just got to get the furniture back in there. Replaced the floor in one of the older trailers at Grandy so they could be made into a classroom. And have pressure washed most of the building outside. And that's the big items we've done so far this year. So, any questions? Thank you.
Very good, thank you. Student fees, Superintendent Farrell.
In your board package, we included the fees from each school. And there is a $15 technology fee required from at each school per student, and that money goes for Chromebook replacements and repairs and that kind of thing. And then the typical supply fees you see there range, they're either $5 or $10 depending on the school. And then there are a few other miscellaneous fees, like, which is optional. Not very many students use lockers anymore, but for those that do, there's a locker fee, some obviously various club fees, particularly at the high school. And then there's a school-owned instrument rental fee at Camden Middle School. So are there any questions about our student fees?
Seeing none, thank you for that update. And if you would please continue with the strategic plan update.
So the Camden County Schools strategic plan was originally approved by the board as a 3-year plan beginning August 1st, 2019 and ending on June 30th, 2022. The plan, as you will recall, has 6 goals. Goal 1 is that all Camden County schools will provide a safe and secure environment. Goal 2 is that all Camden County schools will provide increased support for exemplary classroom teaching and instructional leadership. Goal 3 is that all Camden County schools will provide adequate resources. Goal 4, or will be provided adequate resources rather. Goal 4, all Camden County schools will work to improve teacher and staff working conditions. Goal 5 is that all Camden County schools will be provided increased student support services. And goal 6 is all Camden County schools facilities will be adequate, including building and upgrades, vehicle replacement, and technology replacements and upgrades. So as I said, that was approved and we were off and running as of August 1st, 2019 on our 3-year strategic plan. And then COVID happened. And so the focus of our work changed from being less strategic and a little more survival. So we worked through all of that, and as a result, the board approved extending the end date of the strategic plan as it was written at the time to June 30th of 2023. So recently, we have reviewed the strategic plan by each goal action team leader. That review revealed that we have accomplished some of our goals that we set for ourselves. We've missed some deadlines, which we already knew would be the case due to very little work being done on the strategic plan while dealing with COVID, and that the strategic plan is still very much a viable plan for our district. I don't think the board needs to take any action at this time because I'm not recommending that we extend the end date another year just yet. I might bring that back to you a little later on, but right now we have a couple of years left on that plan. And I would like to reboot our strategic plan as we begin the 21-22 school year and get back to work on it. Start back giving you periodic updates and determine a little later if the end date needs to be extended again. Meanwhile, each goal action team leader has updated information, and you saw that, I think, marked in red on the document as it was included in your board package. And we will also share this reboot information with all staff during convocation on August 20th, and we'll look for ways to also share that information out with families. So we are ready to reboot and re-engage our strategic plan. As a reminder to anyone who's watching or in the audience, this first display here is our Camden County Schools profile of a graduate that we had a number of community members spend quite a bit of time working on. And one of our students at Camden County High School actually won an art contest that we held to design what our profile of a graduate would look like. And then, of course, our strategic plan goals are listed on the other display there. And so we are ready to get moving on our strategic plan again. Questions, comments, or thoughts about that?
Very good. Thank you for the update. CC.
I know we've approved the agenda as presented. Is it possible to rearrange an item on the action agenda? I think what the majority of the people sitting in the audience and watching at home are waiting on is item D. Is it possible to move it up to item A or make it the first thing we discuss?
Is that your motion?
Is it a valid motion? Is it in order? Then yes, I make a motion that we move action into agenda item D up to agenda item A and shift everything down one so that we can get that discussion. So I think that's honestly what the majority of these people are waiting to hear, is not about the driver's ed contract and bid advertisements.
Driver's ed's a hot topic now.
It is.
All of your all-time battles.
So Mr. Purcell has made a motion that we amend the agenda for the order of action item D to be first on the action items. Should be COVID protocol and mitigation strategies. Is there a second? Second. Seconded by Dr. Banks. Is there any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. So we will go under action agenda. We will have COVID protocol and mitigation strategies. Superintendent Farrell.
Okay, so the latest version of the North Carolina Schools Public Health Toolkit, which has been mentioned here a couple of times already tonight, was released to us, the latest version anyway, on August 12th of 2021. I've been asked already, will there be additional versions? I have no idea. Sometimes they come out every couple of weeks. Lately, they've been coming out every couple of days. So the latest one we have, though, is August 12th of 2021. I would guess that there are probably other versions forthcoming, just not sure when. In the latest versions, the main change is that everything that was required before now is the language is should. So an example of that, which I know one of the hot topics around the toolkit is whether or not to mask. And so in previous versions, it had been very clear that masks were required. And what the current version states is that school systems should require masks, and they give lots of reasons for that, and links that are live in the toolkit to go and look at CDC and different things. So the other change is where previous versions of the toolkit made recommendations, the language is now could. So they might say school systems should require students and staff to wear masks. They could also, and then fill in the blank, which would be things that had been recommendations before. So I have spent quite a bit of time going through the toolkit, as I have members of my team. I've spent a lot of time with the board's attorney talking through the shoulds and the coulds and all of that. So what I'll do at this time is kind of walk you through a COVID mitigation plan that I've worked on and spent some time with John Leidy on and some other staff to how we will address COVID mitigation as we move forward. So first of all, the first thing that would be in this packet is a letter to families welcoming them back to the school year, giving some pretty general basic information. Then there is a cover page to show what this document is. There is a table of contents that includes the things that we have gone through the toolkit, or I've gone through the toolkit and pulled out as things that, because the toolkit itself can be a little overwhelming, especially if you start clicking the live links that take you to a different site and all that. So to simplify in some ways, I pulled out some things that I felt like I guess we should do. So one of those things is signage, and reminding people to wash their hands and practice social distancing where they can, and that they have why wearing a face mask is important, and avoid touching your eyes and nose and things like that, and how we're disinfecting and providing hand sanitizer and all that. So signage would be one thing that I feel like we should do, that we could easily post around the building, just to remind people of good practices, whether it's for COVID, the flu, the common cold, or whatever. And then the next section in the COVID mitigation plan is why wear a mask. And the language that I have put in the plan says while wearing a mask will be optional as Camden County Schools begins the 2021-2022 school year. It is noted that the CDC recommends, and we strongly encourage, mask use for all people, and then the language goes on from there. So it's very clear that that wearing a mask is optional, but then we go on to explain why it's important according to the toolkit. Another kind of hot topic within the toolkit is the vaccinations. And the wording that I chose for the vaccinations is the decision regarding whether or not to be vaccinated is a personal choice. But if you would like any information regarding vaccinations, you may contact Albemarle Regional Health. There's a live link there. There's also a phone number for the Camden County Health Department. So, and then I included a section on physical distancing whenever and wherever possible. Just reminding people and ourselves that the more we can physically distance, the better we are, particularly where quarantining and all that is concerned. Transportation. That transportation is a little more gray. So where I've said in the mitigation plan that masking would be optional for inside our buildings. There is a federal mandate that we have been told a state mandate or lack thereof cannot override that. And so there is a federal mandate on public transportation, and school buses are considered public transportation. So we have in this mitigation plan that masks would be required on school buses. And then there is a cleaning and hygiene section, just giving information about letting people know what our plans are to clean and sanitize. And then there are some information about instructional spaces, again, when and where possible. Right now, very honestly, we are experiencing kind of a population explosion in Camden County schools. We are enrolling students seemingly by the busload every day. And so we're just out of space. And so it's going to be difficult to have the 3 feet and certainly the 6 feet. And so that's why I included the language when and where possible. I also put information in here about shared spaces, like how we would handle the cafeterias, hallways, restrooms. And then the final thing that's in the COVID mitigation plan is how we will handle possible, suspected, presumptive, or confirmed positive cases of COVID. And that goes into the information about quarantining and what will be required and all of that, because those are things that we would still do. And there are multiple pages of that. And then the final, the final thing was athletics and extracurricular activities. And what I said there is that Camden County Schools will follow the North Carolina High School Athletic Association's guidance for athletic participation. So whatever, and I will tell you that changes frequently as well. Ms. Davis has, I don't think we've talked about it in a little while, but that does change, not quite as often as the toolkit, but it does change quite a bit. So that is the information that I have put together directly from the toolkit for the COVID mitigation plan for our school district for this school year. Questions? Anything I left out, or I'm open to suggestions.
Make a motion to approve the COVID protocol and mitigation strategy as presented.
Motion by Dr. Banks to approve the COVID protocol and mitigation strategies as presented. Seconded by Mr. Purcell. Is there any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Motion carries. Thank you, Dr. Farrell. CCIP grants, Monique Hiss, Director of EC and Special Programs.
Sorry to delay you a few minutes, Ms. Davis. Sorry to delay you a few minutes.
I was deeply hurt, but I'll get over it. Good evening, everyone. In your packet, you have a summary of the entitlement grants for this year. I wanted to make sure that I brought attention to our free and reduced lunch rates for the county so that you could see why we don't get a lot of funding and why our funding looks a lot different from our neighboring counties. So the first set of the free and reduced lunch rates are the actual ending pool from June 2021. The second set of free and reduced lunch rates are the free and reduced lunch rates that the state is requiring us to use. They're based on the 1920 school data. And this is because they fear that just simply because parents either weren't in school, they had their kids in another school, or they just simply didn't fill out the free and reduced lunch forms. They wanted to make sure that they didn't penalize any districts in their number. So they went with 4 pools from the 1920 school year. And then our federal allotments at this point in time, of course, that can always change. So our Title 1A, and that's our big part of the grant. And that's the part of the grant that supports our math and reading interventionists, our in and after school remediation and tutoring, our educational supplies, software, educational software and educational hardware. And that is right around the $150,000 mark. Also, just of note, our ESSER grants that help fund our summer school, those ESSER 2 and ESSER 3 and all of the other CARES grants, they're all based on our free and reduced lunch rates. So that's why when you see other counties that are getting millions of dollars and we are barely getting any. It is directly related to our free and reduced lunch rates. So next we have our Title IIA entitlement grant. That's our professional development and new teacher development grant. We have roughly $37,000 for that grant. And then our Title IVA, I call that's our stuff. It basically buys stuff. It's an academic enrichment grant. And that also helps our schools with supplies, software, and hardware. So our total runs right at about $200,000, and that's pretty much on par for what we have historically gotten for for the entitlement grants for the county. Any questions? All right, thank you.
So, you need an approval for that? She does need an
She
approval for
does.
that. So my recommendation would be, no, I said you need an approval for that, right? Okay. So-
can't change the money.
Well, I know. My recommendation is that you approve the CCIP grants as presented by Ms. Hicks.
Motion by Ms. Idlet to approve the CCIP grants as presented by Ms. Hicks. Seconded by Mr. Purcell. Is there any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Student Driver's Education Contract, Ms. Anna Lane, Chief Student Services Officer.
The driver education contract for this year is exactly the same as it was last year. It's approved for 1 year, and then we have 2 years of rollover, and none of the fees have increased, so everything remains the same, just like it was last year. So it's just a matter of continuing the contract as it was written. Questions?
My recommendation is that you approve the student driver's education contract as presented by Ms. Lane.
Motion by Dr. Banks to approve the Student Driver's Education Contract as presented by Ms. Lane.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Heath. Is there any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Bid advertisement method determination, Larry Lawrence, Chief Operations Officer.
Trying to get to bid out the addition to the central office shop, just to see where the numbers fall. We don't know. And what I'd like to do, I need the board's approval to do it. And Dr. Farrell and Sally and I, we reviewed this. I don't have to run it in the newspaper. I can run it on our webpage. I've got 3 construction sites where contractors go and see what work's being done and pick up the prints and everything. And I would like to not run it in the newspaper. I'd have to run it 7 days at a cost of almost $2,000. And I just do not think that we're going to get a bang for our buck for that amount of money, but we can cover it other ways. That's what I'd like to do on this addition to just see where it falls. But I need the board has to approve me doing that. I just can't do that on my own. So
Does it meet all the requirements?
We have our attorney who talks about that. Excuse me. You can use this bidding process for this.
Just remember there was something in the news not too long ago about somebody trying to not run something in the paper and it got all hairy. So
Based on the size of the project. State mandated bidding process.
So with that, my recommendation is that you approve the advertisement method for the bidding process as presented by Mr. Lawrence.
Motion by Mr. Purcell to accept the superintendent's recommendation for the bidding advertisement method process for central office renovations as presented by Mr. Lawrence.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Heath. Is there any discussion? All in favor say aye. Opposed? Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Lawrence.
thank you.
Social and emotional learning and mental health plan for Camden County Schools, Ms. Anna Lane, Chief Student Services Officer.
For the social emotional learning plan that Camden County Schools should support and implement, we have 6 hours that will be required this year for professional development for teachers, instructional support personnel, principals, assistant principals, and teacher assistants. The topics that will need to be covered are social emotional learning, mental health, suicide prevention, substance abuse, teenage dating violence, and sex trafficking. Sex trafficking will also include child sexual abuse and all kinds of human trafficking. So it's not just dealing with sex trafficking. It will touch on some other types of like labor trafficking and that sort of thing as well. As I said, 6 hours are required this year, then every year afterwards, 2 hours of training are required. In 2025, we'll have to come back to it and make adjustments if we find that the plan is in need of adjustments. But we will report every year to the Department of Public Instruction about what we're doing and how it's being handled and so forth. Any questions?
My recommendation is that you approve the plan for social emotional learning and mental health as presented by Ms. Lane.
Motion by Ms. Abbott to accept the superintendent's recommendation of the social emotional learning and mental health plan for Camden County Schools as presented by Ms. Lane.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Purcell. Any further discussion?
Just
All in,
clarification for the record, because there was a couple of emails that been sent about some other stuff. This is instruction for staff in the school. This is no instruction to the children about any of these topics.
No, sir.
Just want to be
However,
clear and on the record about that.
However, to be absolutely transparent, the teachers are going to be taught how to help students understand team building and kindness and that sort of thing. So the actual training is for the teachers so that they can incorporate those characteristics into children. But it has to do with building good citizens. That's what it's all about. It's character education, if you will. And the state has had character education for years out there. They've also had the sex trafficking thing out there for years, but it's never been pulled together in a concise plan so that the state can ensure that these topics are being covered. And they are critical at this day and time. In my opinion, it's critical that we have an understanding of mental health and have the teachers be able to recognize characteristics that students may bring forth, and then also to be able to teach children to be good citizens and to help them understand once they get old enough to be careful about where they are and who they're with.
And no elements of CRT.
No, sir, none whatsoever. Has nothing to do with that. It's actually a bringing together of things that the state has required for years. It's just pulling it all together under one plan.
any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Ms. Lane.
Thank you.
Superintendent's recommendation from closed session, employment of personnel.
My recommendation is that you approve the employment of
I think I need to
personnel.
recuse myself. Voting on this.
That's all right. You can do that.
Okay.
That you approve the employment of personnel as amended, as presented by Ms. Anderson in closed session.
I need to recuse myself from voting on this.
Mr. Heath is recusing himself from any vote on personnel this evening.
Motion to approve. Take superintendent's recommendation.
Motion. Motion by Mr. Purcell to accept the superintendent's recommendation for employment of personnel from closed session as amended and presented by Ms. Anderson. Seconded by Dr. Banks to all of that. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Announcements. The first student school day at Camden Early College High School was yesterday, August 11th, 2021.
Awesome.
2 days now, right?
2 days.
It's a great write-up in the paper. Good article.
That's good.
Convocation will be Friday, August the 20th. First student school day at Camden County Schools Traditional Schools is August the 23rd. See everyone there. North Carolina School Board Association Fall District Meeting is scheduled for Thursday, September 9th. Location still to be determined. Future conference date for North Carolina School Board Association annual conference will be Thursday, November 11th through Saturday, November 13th. That concludes the announcements unless anyone else has one. Entertain a motion that we recess open session to return to closed. Motion by Dr. Banks that we recess open session to return to closed session. Seconded by Ms. Adler. All in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion carried. We're back in closed session. Thank everyone for coming. We'll take a short recess.
Amen.